young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off.
Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists.
And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you.
Clear about that. And watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest.
Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
The clash between Karoline Leavitt and Whoopi Goldberg on The View has sparked a wave of discussion about wokeness, generational divides, and media accountability. Karoline, the youngest White House press secretary in history, entered the conversation with a calm yet firm demeanor, prepared to challenge the rhetoric of one of the most influential talk shows in the country. What followed was a fiery exchange that exposed cracks in The View's credibility, as Karoline's sharp arguments left Whoopi Goldberg visibly flustered and without a rebuttal. The discussion centered on the concept of wokeness, which Karoline criticized as having evolved from a movement about fairness to a weaponized political tool. Whoopi, in an attempt to defend progressive ideals, accused Karoline of benefiting from the very structure she now opposes. However, Karoline refused to be baited into defensiveness, delivering a poised response that systematically dismantled Whoopi's arguments. This segment was about more than just ideological differences. It was a moment that highlighted the struggle between legacy media platforms and younger voices demanding accountability. Karoline's composure and reliance on facts stood in stark contrast to The View's emotional appeals, leaving the audience and co-hosts in stunned silence. The fallout from this exchange has sparked conversations about the role of traditional media in shaping public discourse, and whether platforms like The View are equipped to handle the changing expectations of their viewers. The tension between Karoline Leavitt and Whoopi Goldberg reached its breaking point when Whoopi made a bold and dismissive statement that set the tone for the fiery exchange that followed.
Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists.
During a discussion about wokeness, Whoopi suggested that Karoline's achievements were a byproduct of the very progressive ideals she criticized, implying that her career was built on privilege, appearance, and favoritism. This remark not only minimized Karoline's accomplishments but also struck a nerve with the audience, who could sense the hostility behind the statement. Adding to the tension, Joy Behar jumped in with a sarcastic jab saying, "Donald Trump probably thinks she's a 10. That's why she's here." This remark, intended to belittle Karoline and question her qualifications, seemed to backfire almost immediately. Even the audience, typically aligned with The View's progressive slant, appeared uncomfortable, with laughter and applause sounding more awkward than enthusiastic. Karoline, however, refused to let the comments derail her. She calmly responded by pointing out the hypocrisy of progressive ideals being weaponized to attack women, particularly conservative women. She emphasized that true empowerment means respecting accomplishments regardless of political alignment. Her ability to stay composed under fire not only disarmed Whoopi and Joy, but also highlighted the contradictions in their rhetoric. Whoopi attempted to double down, claiming that wokeness is about fairness and inclusion. But Karoline quickly countered, explaining how the modern iteration of wokeness has become a tool of political control that silences opposing views instead of fostering dialogue. This exchange set the stage for what became a pivotal moment in the segment.
And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off.
As Karoline's factual and measured responses began to expose the flaws in The View's arguments, the audience's reaction to this exchange was notable. Typically quick to cheer for the hosts, they seemed hesitant, unsure of how to react to Karoline's well-articulated points. For many viewers, this moment revealed a generational and ideological divide that The View struggled to navigate, particularly when faced with someone as sharp and prepared as Karoline. Karoline Leavitt's ability to remain calm and composed under pressure during her exchange with Whoopi Goldberg was a masterclass in maintaining poise while dismantling flawed arguments. The conversation turned in Karoline's favor when she began citing specific examples of how wokeness has strayed from its original intention of promoting fairness and equality. With a confident and articulate delivery, Karoline outlined how wokeness has evolved into a political weapon that stifles dissent and fosters division rather than inclusivity. One of Karoline's most impactful moments came when she presented concrete evidence of government spending on woke initiatives abroad, such as funding gender studies programs in Guatemala. This revelation caught Whoopi off guard, as she struggled to connect such expenditures with the broader ideals of fairness and progress that she was defending. Karoline calmly questioned whether taxpayer dollars should be used to fund these projects while critical domestic issues remain unaddressed. Her points resonated with the audience, many of whom were visibly nodding in agreement. Whoopi, known for her commanding presence and ability to dominate conversations, found herself unusually flustered. She attempted to pivot the discussion, claiming that wokeness is a necessary force for combating inequality, but Karoline refused to let the narrative shift. Instead, she reframed the conversation, pointing out that wokeness has increasingly been used to silence opposing viewpoints and enforce ideological conformity. By using real-world examples and framing the debate in terms of freedom and fairness, Karoline exposed the contradictions in Whoopi's arguments. Perhaps the most striking moment was when Karoline addressed the broader cultural impact of wokeness, calling it a symptom of what she described as cultural Marxism. She explained how its influence has extended beyond politics into entertainment, education, and even personal freedoms, creating an environment where dissenting voices are punished instead of welcomed. Her ability to articulate these ideas with clarity and composure left Whoopi with no effective rebuttal, forcing her to rely on generalization.
And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you.
Clear about that. And watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar in the
and emotional appeals rather than facts. Karoline's calm demeanor and reliance on data stood in stark contrast to Whoopi's increasingly defensive tone, creating a clear divide between the two approaches. By the end of the exchange, Karoline had not only gained the upper hand but also demonstrated why voices like hers are resonating with a younger, more skeptical audience. One of the most remarkable aspects of Karoline Leavitt's appearance on The View was the audience's reaction, or lack thereof, as she systematically dismantled the panel's arguments. Typically, The View audience is vocal, offering applause, cheers, or laughter in support of the co-host's comments. However, during this segment, there was an unmistakable shift in the room's energy, as Karoline's calm and factual rebuttals left even the show's most loyal supporters unsure how to respond. As Karoline presented her case, citing specific examples of taxpayer money being spent on overseas woke initiatives, the audience seemed to be absorbing her points rather than reacting reflexively. Her references to gender studies programs in Guatemala funded by U.S. taxpayers struck a chord with viewers, many of whom appeared to agree with her underlying argument that resources should be focused on addressing critical domestic issues rather than unnecessary ideological ventures abroad. This shift in tone was evident as the usual applause for The View's hosts became sporadic and hesitant, creating an uncomfortable silence on set. Whoopi Goldberg, a veteran of high-profile debates, appeared visibly flustered as her usual charisma and commanding presence failed to regain control of the conversation. She attempted to steer the discussion back to broader ideals of inclusion and equality, but Karoline's laser-focused arguments consistently brought the conversation back to real-world implications and government overreach. Each of Whoopi's attempts to pivot the conversation was met with calm yet precise responses from Karoline, leaving the co-host with few options but to resort to emotional appeals. Joy Behar, typically the panel's most aggressive voice, attempted to break the tension with a sarcastic jab about Karoline's qualifications, referencing her youth and implying she lacked experience. However, this move backfired spectacularly. Karoline confidently responded by highlighting her role as the youngest White House press secretary in history, emphasizing that her success came from hard work and dedication, not the superficial factors that the panel repeatedly insinuated. Her rebuttal not only shut down Behar's attack but also garnered quiet approval from the audience, further highlighting the disconnect between The View's narrative and its viewers. The camera operators, perhaps sensing the tension in the room, lingered on shots of Whoopi and Joy, both of whom appeared at a loss for words. This rare moment of stunned silence from The View underscored the effectiveness of Karoline's approach. For a show that thrives on heated debates and audience engagement, the lack of applause and vocal support for the co-hosts was a clear indicator that Karoline's arguments had landed. Social media reactions further amplified this moment. Clips of the segment quickly went viral, with users praising Karoline for her poise and composure. Comments ranged from admiration for her factual approach to critiques of the View's inability to engage with opposing viewpoints. Many viewers noted that this segment revealed the growing disconnect between legacy media platforms and a public that increasingly values accountability and authenticity. In the end, Karoline's appearance marked a turning point, not just for The View but for the broader conversation about media credibility. Her ability to command the room, stay focused on facts, and expose the flaws in her opponent's arguments left a lasting impression, one that may continue to shape public perception of the show and its relevance in a changing media landscape. Karoline Leavitt's fiery yet composed appearance on The View has left an indelible mark, not only on the show's credibility, but also on the broader discourse surrounding media accountability and ideological divides. Her ability to stay poised under relentless scrutiny, present factual arguments, and expose the contradictions in the co-host's narratives demonstrated why she is quickly becoming a powerful voice for a younger, more skeptical generation. What was meant to be another routine debate on wokeness turned into a pivotal moment that exposed cracks in The View's credibility and its approach to handling dissenting perspectives. For years, The View has positioned itself as a forum for open dialogue and meaningful discussions, but this segment revealed how the show...
This is her first job. I would like her to do a little homework. Because she's...
But they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years.
Often struggles to engage with opposing viewpoints in a substantive way. Karoline's calm yet sharp responses left the co-hosts visibly flustered, particularly Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar, who relied heavily on emotional appeals and personal attacks rather than engaging with the facts Karoline presented. This inability to effectively counter her arguments resonated with viewers, many of whom noted that Karoline's presence highlighted a growing disconnect between legacy media platforms and their audiences. The audience's subdued reaction throughout the segment spoke volumes. Typically vocal in support of the panel, they found themselves grappling with Karoline's well-reasoned points, particularly her critiques of taxpayer-funded woke initiatives abroad. By staying focused on tangible examples and avoiding inflammatory rhetoric, Karoline forced the discussion to remain on substance, making it difficult for the co-host to dismiss her as uninformed or inexperienced. Her responses to Behar's sarcastic jabs about her qualifications, emphasizing her achievements as the youngest White House press secretary, only further solidified her credibility and confidence. This moment has sparked broader conversations about the future of legacy media outlets like The View in a rapidly changing landscape. As younger voices like Karoline challenge traditional narratives, platforms that rely on emotional appeals and one-sided discussions are finding it harder to maintain their influence. Social media reactions to the segment were overwhelmingly in Karoline's favor, with clips going viral and users praising her composure and factual approach. Many viewers noted that the segment symbolized a turning point for media accountability, where audiences are no longer content with surface-level debates and demand more from their platforms. As The View faces mounting criticism, the question remains: can it adapt to meet the expectations of a more discerning audience, or is this the beginning of its decline? For Karoline, this appearance has further cemented her position as a rising star in political discourse. Her ability to command the conversation, withstand personal attacks, and focus on facts has made her a symbol of a new era of transparency and accountability in media and politics. Ultimately, Karoline's performance on The View wasn't just a victory for her. It was a wake-up call for legacy outlets that have long controlled the narrative. Whether this marks a shift in The View's approach or accelerates its loss of relevance remains to be seen, but one thing is clear: Karoline's presence on the show was a moment of reckoning for both the panel and its audience. Do you think this moment exposed The View's weaknesses, or was it a one-off exchange? Let us know your thoughts. For more updates on political debates, media accountability, and breaking news, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. This is just the beginning of the conversation, and we'll continue to cover the most pivotal moments shaping the media landscape.